out here. On this gorgeous stretch of coast. Go ahead and give you a view of what I'm looking at. We'll start our stroll in just a minute or so. Good morning, everyone. Happy MP Monday. Beautiful day here at Morro Strand State Beach. See, it's a beautiful clear day. A couple puffy clouds in the distance. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Nancy. Happy MP Monday. Good morning, Joan. It is a beautiful day. It's not super cold though. It's a little bit chilly. Slightly breezy. I do have a coat on. But the sun does feel nice. Good morning, Stu. Yes, it is a great day for a walk on the beach. So glad you all could join me. See these beautiful dunes here. It's always fun to walk through these dunes. Good morning, everyone. Happy MP Monday. I'm Robin and I work for California State Parks. You can find me almost every Monday celebrating marine protected areas for MPA Monday. And today we're here at Morro Strand State Beach, which is a beautiful stretch of coast just north of Morro Rock. Some of you may have seen that in the previous little clip, and I'll flip the camera again so you guys can see that again. But just wanted to introduce myself, and as you can see I am wearing a mask because I am in public just to keep myself as well as others safe. But I'll go ahead and give you a glimpse of what I actually look like. So good morning. Right here, this is the rock I was just talking about. So this is a stretch of coast just north of Morro Rock, north of Morro Bay. And it's a beautiful day out today. Got these lovely dunes here. Nancy says last night she went for the first time to Elfin Forest. Amazing plants, birds, and views. Can I do an Elfin Forest and Sweet Springs for MP Monday? Yes, I've actually done Elfin Forest in the past, and I've been meaning to do it again, but due to the nature of the area and the canopy of the oaks, the connectivity is not that great. But thanks for the push. That's always good because I have been wanting to go out there again. So I'll see if I can find a spot where I can get some good connectivity and it doesn't drop out. It is really beautiful there. Sweet Springs isn't state park property, so I may not be able to go there. But Elfin Forest is a partnership amongst different organizations, state parks being one of them. So I'll definitely try to make it out there again. Good tip, Nancy. So some of you might be familiar that this coast right here, this ocean that we're off looking at, is actually not a marine protected area. But I like to highlight these all of these parks really, because in California we have 124 marine protected areas all along our coast, which makes, again, the largest network of marine protected areas in the world. And all of the surrounding waters around marine protected areas are also benefited. So the nature of how it's organized, the network of the marine protected areas, actually allows for more abundance to reach adjacent waters. This is actually what's known as the spillover effect. This cloud looks super cool. For those of you not familiar with these, I get very easily distracted by nature, so there's a lot of squirrel moments that happens. But like I was saying, the spillover effect is a really, really neat benefit of marine protected areas. Because you can essentially think of these marine protected areas kind of like a charging zone, an area of healing. And it allows for more life, more abundance to actually spill over into the unprotected waters adjacent to the marine protected area. And so the closest marine protected area here is actually just to the east of this rock here is Morro Bay, and we've actually got 2 different marine protected areas there. You can think of these different marine protected areas just like flavors. They're just different forms of regulation. One of them is a state marine reserve, or SMR, which basically just means no take whatsoever. No take of any animals, cultural artifacts, plants, anything. Just allow for that area. Maybe SMRs sometimes are designated that because maybe they need a little bit more support, more protection. So maybe there's some possible sensitive species back there. And the second marine protected area is the State Marine Recreational Management Area, or SMRMA for short. And as it states in the name, recreation, it's essentially encouraged to play there. And that goes for all marine protected areas, which is super cool. And one of my favorite things is that we're encouraged to play in them. A lot of times people have this assumption that a marine protected area is off limits, you're not allowed to go there, but that's actually not the case whatsoever. They're just parks. They're just like parks that we're all familiar with, whether we're hiking in a land park or riding our bike, playing basketball, whatever it is that you're doing at whatever kind of park. These marine protected areas are very similar. They're just under the waves. So for those of us who like hanging out in or near the ocean, whether you're walking on the beach like we are right now, whether you like snorkeling or boogie boarding, maybe you're a scuba diver. Let me know if there's any scuba divers in the group. I'm personally a scuba diver and I absolutely love it. Let me know what kinds of ways you love to enjoy the coast. Maybe you're a bird watcher. Those bird watchers out there. Does anybody know who this is? Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Jean. See if anybody can name that bird. This is a kind of shorebird we've got here. And a good way to tell, at least for me, a good thing that I like to use to help me figure out what kind of shorebirds they are is their bill. And we've actually got some guesses. Nancy says curlew, Stu says curlew, and you're right, this is a curlew. Curlews are pretty, one of the easier birds for me to identify because they have a super, super long bill, as you can see, and actually curls down a little bit. And it's always fun to see them forage like this because these shorebirds, their bills are actually evolved in different ways, sometimes depending on the bird. Maybe it's shorter, maybe it's straight, maybe it's curled up a little bit. And it all just depends on what these animals like to eat. So you can see they stick their bill into the sand or mud. Depending where you are, you'll see them often at a Windy Cove. If anybody's been to Morro Bay, Windy Cove, you'll see a lot of these guys all along the estuary. Got another one out there in the beach rack. Lots of goodies in that beach rack, I'm sure. So the shape of the bill helps them to eat whatever it is they're looking for. Willets have a shorter bill and they're really straight. And godwits have probably in between a willet and a curlew length. And it looks straight, but if you look closely, it actually curls upward. Just at the very tip, it kind of curls upward slightly. Beautiful day out here. You can see the mountains that land beyond the rock. That's actually on the south end of Morro Bay. And many of those mountains are actually a part of the state park we actually just visited last week, Pointe Bouchon. The park itself is actually called Montaña de Oro State Park. But the reason we went out there is to check out the Pointe Bouchon Marine Protected Area, which is near Montaña de Oro State Park. And for those of you who also tuned in last week, I mentioned that this entire stretch here from Pointe Bouchon all the way out there, stretching this whole coast beyond me all the way to the north to this headland right here. That's Harmony Headlands, also a state park. Beautiful state park. If nobody's made it out to Harmony Headlands, I highly recommend it. Another funny thing, or a funny thing about Harmony Headlands is that there's absolutely no connectivity whatsoever. So I would love to do a hike out that way to take you guys along with me. But for anybody who's driven up the Highway 1 beyond Cayucas, as you reach Harmony, there's kind of just this drop. There's absolutely no connectivity whatsoever, so it's almost like you're in a bit of harmony because you're disconnected. Got some surfers out here. Stretch of beach. Always fun when you walk on a beach where there's minimal people. Nice and expansive beach here. I'm from Southern California originally, and moving up here it was odd to see the beaches not always completely packed. More shorebirds out here. I believe these are willets. The beach, we've got all kinds of goodies to look at. Got some leftover sand dollar here. I'm wondering if anybody knows what a sand dollar looks like beyond this. This is typically what, I mean, without the giant hole. Obviously, whoever was living inside got attacked, hence the hole. But this is typically what we think of when we think of a sand dollar. But I'm wondering if anybody knows what they actually look like when they're in the ocean. Because they actually look completely different. Wish I had an image to show you, but feel free to use good old Google finding out what a sand dollar looks like. We've got, again, all this beach rack here. A bit of kelp. This kelp here, what we're looking at, this is actually what's known as the blade. The part that looks like a leaf. This is actually known as a blade. And for anybody familiar with the structure of kelp, how it actually holds on is from something called a holdfast. It looks very similar to roots, but it actually is extremely different because it doesn't get any nutrients from the roots itself. Its sole purpose is actually just to hold on. And from that holdfast, it reaches upward on the stipe. See if I can actually find a full intact kelp for you guys. And off of that stipe, which is very similar to a stem of a plant, these blades, which look like leaves, these blades come off of it. So if it doesn't get any nutrients from the water, if it doesn't get any nutrients from the holdfast, just like roots would, how do you guys think that this plant actually eats? How do you think this plant actually is able to get its nutrients? And again, it's not a plant. I oftentimes call it a plant. It's actually an algae. But it actually eats very similar to a plant. So this algae, this kelp, actually photosynthesizes. So photosynthesis, for those of you who can reach back to their memory of 4th grade, photosynthesis is essentially a plant or algae's way to get its nutrients from the sun. How cool would that be if we could just walk outside, stand in the sun for 10-15 minutes, and get our own food? Super cheap, super free. Photosynthesis is super cool. Not only because this plant can get its own nutrients from the sun, but also an effect of that is actually providing us oxygen, right? But if this plant is in the ocean, sorry, it's not focusing and focusing out, but if this plant is in the ocean, how on earth do you think that they're able to photosynthesize? They live in the ocean, and their food source is the sun. That's where this guy comes in handy. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these before. They kind of look like little peppers. They're what's known as the air bladder. Fancy word is pneumaticist. And what this actually serves as is a buoy or a life jacket. So this is filled with air, and it actually brings this blade up closer to the surface of the water, of the ocean. It actually brings it closer to the sun. So even though it's in the water, this little buoy right here is able to bring it closer to the sun so that it can actually eat. So this little tiny, well, it's actually huge in reality, but this algae has developed a really cool adaptation in order to survive in the ocean, even though its food source is outside of the ocean. Super, super cool. Another fun fact about algae, or this kelp in particular, is that it actually exists in a lot of our food. A lot of the things that we use daily. So for those of us who brushed our teeth this morning, it's still early, so if you haven't, no judgment. But if you brushed your teeth this morning, you most likely have put kelp in your mouth, because there's an ingredient within kelp called algin or alginate that actually exists in a lot of the things that we use, like toothpaste. Ice cream is another one. Those of us that like ice cream, I'm definitely one of those people. Those of us that like ice cream, kelp also is in our ice cream. Look at this shell. Super shiny. Oh, I see that Stu has actually shared the link for what a sand dollar looks like. Thank you, Stu. So if you guys are interested in seeing what a sand dollar looks like, other than what's typically known, find that little link that Stu has shared. Got some gulls here. And I don't believe this is the western gull. This is a different kind of gull. And from what I've been told from bird experts, bird biologists, ornithologists, gulls are actually one of the hardest seabirds. This is one person's opinion, what they told me. Gulls are actually some of the hardest birds to identify because there's so many different kinds. There's the Pearman's gull, which is not these guys. They have a oranger reddier beak, I believe. There's also the western gull, which actually has the red dot. These gulls actually have the black line. Their eyes are a little bit smaller. Their body even is a little bit smaller. For those of you interested in learning more about gulls, there's actually a quiz online that the same bird biologist told me about, and it's known as, I think if you just Google test your gull ability, it's a fun little quiz to be able to figure out different gulls, because again, there's so many different kinds. For the western gull, I know that if you see the ones without that typical white and gray pattern, when they're a darker color, they're more so brown or gray, they're under 4 years old. Whereas at white and gray pattern, they're over 4 years old. And again, that's just for the western gull. Again, definitely not an expert. My gull ability is not on point. Oh, and Stu just shared that as well. Yeah, it's under John Muir Laws, if anybody's interested. I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this lovely walk of Morris Strand State Beach. You can actually see we're starting to put up the fencing again. Snowy plover season is approaching. These snowy plover, if you're unfamiliar, is a small bird, small shorebird that likes to nest in these dunes here. And up and down the coast you'll find anywhere there's dunes and they tend to nest, this small fencing will go up just to keep dogs and anybody from trampling on eggs, because they're actually extremely camouflaged. Beautiful stretch here. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but this is the reason I was pointing out Harmony Headlands to the north here. Harmony Headlands stretching all the way down the coast, even more, including Morro Bay, which is just over here.